Act 1. The Invisible Replacement. December 17th, 2025, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. Across the world, millions of people wake up, reach for their phones, and ask questions. What should I cook for dinner? Help me understand quantum mechanics. Plan a last-minute trip to Barcelona. The interface looks the same. The icon hasn't changed, but something fundamental has shifted beneath the surface. By the time you read this sentence, over 1 billion people have been quietly upgraded. They don't know it yet. The model answering their questions isn't the one they used yesterday. Act 2. The Architecture of Acceleration. Welcome to the new default. Google has made Gemini 3 Flash the standard model in the Gemini app, replacing its predecessor in what company representatives describe as bringing frontier intelligence to everyone. But what does frontier intelligence actually mean when it arrives at 3 times the speed? The numbers tell one story. On the MMMU Pro benchmark for multimodal reasoning, the model scored 81.2%, outperforming all competitors. On academic reasoning tests, it matches models that cost significantly more to run. But there's something else happening here, something the benchmarks don't measure. Speed changes everything. In Ohio, a student uploads a pickleball video and receives coaching tips in seconds, analyzing movement, stance, technique with the fluency of an expert who's watched them play for years. In Tokyo, a designer sketches a rough prototype and watches as it transforms into a functioning app concept before they've finished their coffee. In Mumbai, a parent asks for evening activities suitable for young children and receives not just a list, but a contextual understanding of their neighborhood, the weather, their kids' ages extracted from previous conversations they've forgotten they had. The model can reason across text, images, audio, and video simultaneously, not as separate tasks, but as a unified understanding. And it does this in the time it takes you to blink. This is where something strange begins to happen. Act 4. The Compression of Capability. 6 months ago, this level of intelligence required massive computational resources. Models that could reason deeply, understand context, generate working code. They were slow, expensive, reserved for specific tasks. Gemini 3 Flash processes requests 3 times faster than Gemini 2.5 Pro while matching or exceeding its performance across numerous benchmarks. The technical achievement is remarkable, but focus on what it enables. When intelligence becomes this fast, this cheap, this ubiquitous, it stops being a tool you deliberately use. It becomes ambient. The world continues moving, but now there's a subtle overlay. Questions being answered, problems being solved, decisions being assisted in real time, continuously, invisibly. Act 5. The Race Beneath the Surface. The launch occurred less than a week after OpenAI released GPT 5.2. Following OpenAI's declaration of a code red as Google's market share rose. In the past month alone, Google releases Gemini 3 Pro, OpenAI responds with GPT 5.2, Google counters with Gemini 3 Flash, OpenAI launches an image generation model. Each company racing to out-release, outperform, out-distribute the other. But here's what makes this particular moment different from every previous technology race. The models are converging. Since Gemini 3's release, Google has processed over 1 trillion tokens daily through its API, a scale of deployment that would have been unimaginable 2 years ago. And the gap between best-in-class and good enough is shrinking to the point where most users can't tell the difference. So the competition shifts from can it do the task, to how fast, to how many people can we reach, to something more fundamental. Who gets to decide what intelligence becomes? Right now, as you read this, the default has changed. Gemini 3 Flash is now the model powering AI mode in Google Search, available to everyone globally. Not as an opt-in, not as a choice you made, but as a quiet upgrade to infrastructure you've already woven into your daily life. Most people won't notice. The interface hasn't changed. The answers look similar. Maybe they come a little faster, understand context a little better, make connections a little more intuitively. But beneath that seamless surface, something has fundamentally shifted. The intelligence you're accessing has been upgraded, but the upgrade isn't just technical. It's strategic, economic, designed not just to serve your immediate query, but to position itself as the default infrastructure of thought for the next decade. And here's the uncomfortable question nobody's asking. The threshold question. When intelligence becomes this accessible, this fast, this deeply integrated into every digital surface you touch, what happens to the space between stimulus and response? The company pitches it as democratization. A senior director described the goal as bringing the model to everyone, making frontier intelligence available regardless of technical expertise or economic resources. That's not wrong. Access matters. Speed enables new possibilities. Lower costs open doors. But there's another word for what happens when a single model becomes the default infrastructure for billions of queries across dozens of languages, embedded in the world's most used search engine. Centralization. Not of the technology, that's distributed across countless servers. Not of the company, competition exists, intensifying daily. Centralization of how we think. The question we're answering without asking. There's a generation growing up right now who will never know what it feels like to sit with a question for more than a few seconds. They'll never experience the friction that used to exist between thought and execution. They'll never develop the skill of sifting through imperfect information to form their own synthesis. Companies like JetBrains, Figma, Cursor, Harvey, and Latitude are already deploying the model, integrating it into professional tools, creative workflows, legal research, gaming platforms. This isn't speculation about a distant future. This is today, December 17th, 2025, the day the default changed. And the question isn't whether this technology is impressive. It is. The question isn't whether it's useful. It clearly is. The question is, when intelligence becomes this fast, this cheap, this seamlessly integrated into every thought you might have, do we become smarter or do we become dependent? And when 1 trillion thoughts per day flow through a single architecture, whose intelligence is actually doing the thinking?